Welcome to the Jira Life, the place to find news, events, and interviews with the Atlassian Community's movers and shakers. Join our hosts, Alex, Dr. Jira Ortiz, and Rodney, the Jira guy Nissen, as well as the Jira amigos in the Peanut Gallery, as we sit down and discuss the latest going on in the Atlassian ecosystem. Because we didn't choose the Jira Life, the Jira Life chose us.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Miss Trudy.
Good afternoon.
I feel like I'm with a giant celebrity today.
Oh my goodness. I don't feel like a celebrity.
I would argue that the million or so people that go to community.atlassian.com probably would argue against you.
Well, that's just a little bit of OCD there. Somebody's got a problem. I have to answer it.
How did that start?
How did it start? Well, actually, it started a couple of employers ago. I was a software tester, a test automation engineer, and we implemented HP, ALM, and UFT for test automation and test tracking. And it was brought into my little team in a very large company. We had to set it up ourselves and manage it ourselves. And I've always been interested in digging into the guts of how things work. And so I became the administrator. I learned the database. I started customizing. I started writing scripts that interface to the API. And eventually my test team got downsized. And my manager at the time didn't want to lose me from the company. So he said, take your tools and go play in the DevOps toolbox in their sandbox. And so I transitioned over to the DevOps team. They implemented Atlassian based on an acquisition of another company, and we brought Atlassian in-house. And once again, I wanted to learn all about it. How did it work? How could we make it work better? How could we customize it? Play with the API? What's the database structure? And I eventually became an expert in it there and started proselytizing throughout the company. This is how you can use it. This is how you can use it better. This is what it'll do for you. And in both cases, with the HP tool and with the Atlassian tool suite, I found myself going to the communities looking for answers. And in my search for answers, I found other people had questions. And I said, well, I know the answer to that. I know the answer to that. That's a really interesting problem. I want to see if I can figure out the answer to that. And it just kind of kept going from there.
And just kept going and going. How long ago would have this been?
That was in the early 2010s that I started looking at the Atlassian tools.
2010.
2000, 2012, 2013, thereabouts.
Those are early teens. Those are a lot of people, when they say the teens, most people that I've been talking with, they're like 17, 18, 19.
Oh.
Yeah, because at that point you're talking about a very, very infant cloud tool, if any. And
yes.
a 3-year-old server tool.
We at the time, the company I was with, we were not going into cloud yet. We were working in server, eventually matured to data center. And we were working with teams in the United States, in Canada, across Europe, into Asia, South America. So we were doing globally distributed work on a single Jira instance eventually. We had several Jira and Confluence instances, Bitbucket, Fisheye, Crucible, HipChat, the whole suite. We had pretty much everything on premise in various locations on physical servers and VMs. And as I was part of the team and we started maturing the process, we started consolidating and eventually moved everything into one Confluence data center environment and one Jira data center environment so that we could standardize. Being a global company, the executives, of course, wanted to be able to get reports that were representative of all of the work across the organization. So we had to standardize and we had to consolidate in order to be able to support that.
I was going to ask you a question, but I'm also trying not to deviate too far from the script because then these guys just yell at me. But just out of my curiosity, when you wake up in the morning, do you, like John Funko, like rock, paper, scissors to see who's going to answer these questions first?
Well, he is in, isn't he in Saudi Arabia? So
yeah, he's where are you at?
I am in Oregon on the West Coast.
PST versus I don't know where Saudi Arabia is at, but I would assume at least a half a day split almost.
About a half a day split, yes. He is still answering questions when I get online, and I think like me, he probably starts early and stays late. I was actually just messaging him through our Slack workspace the other day, looking at the leaderboard, saying, I keep chasing you, and you keep staying just a little bit ahead of me."
A little bit. How did that make you feel? Like the fact that you're just so close, but yet the bar just keeps moving on you.
Well, I I find it challenging. I'm trying not to be too hung up on the points. But I am a little bit competitive, I have to admit. I'm careful to make sure that my contributions are meaningful. I don't wanna, just try and game the system and get points to get to the top of the leaderboard.
I think at this point though, like to get to that level though, like you gotta know your stuff.
I hope I know
Yeah.
my stuff, but I learn something new every day. Um, One of my end users pointed out something to me that I had not seen, and in my research, I was looking for how to change the homepage in Jira Cloud. From the your work to dashboard or to something else. The end users had asked me about that, and I started researching it. And everything I was finding in the research said you can't do it. And then my end user came back and they said, "Well, I found this thing just poking around." I'm like, well,
It's in
that's
the
what I've.
portfolio, no? It's in the portfolio.
It's in the personal settings, and I
Sorry, yeah,
had
the
not
personal.
spent
Yeah,
enough time poking around personal settings to see
yeah. You
how
go to
that had
personal
changed.
settings there. Yeah, there's a little drop down
There
under your.
is. So, even with all the years of experience I have and all the answers I have, there are still things I don't know. I'm learning every single day.
That's I think
The
that's one of the more beautiful things of this Atlassian tools, right? Because I like to tell teams like I was just on a call today and somebody asked me like, "How do I do this?" I'm like, "Can you believe it? In the thousands of questions that people ask me, nobody's asked me that one."
Not only that, because you get the under 10 user license free, you can get a sandbox where you could just play with it and see what it does and
Yep.
try and find new and more inventive ways to break it. Not that I've ever done that, but I have literally sat down and ran API calls just to see how many releases you can stick in one project before Jira just gives up.
So Trudy, has Atlassian reached out to you and basically said, "How do we turn Trudy and her brain into a robo agent?"
No, no, they haven't tried that yet. I have often thought to myself that I wished I could clone myself, except that I probably would not get along with myself very well
I look at
because
well, if you clone yourself at that point, we're at 100,000 points, and we can definitely beat you.
maybe that should be a perk of, getting higher up on the leaderboard and achieving a certain level. Level 11, level 12, level 20 is you get a clone.
There should be levels.
There are levels.
Does
There
being
are.
on the leaderboard like that unlock certain benefits that us
Mm,
commoners with 10 points like me don't have?
I haven't seen anything on the leaderboard, a reward specifically on the leaderboard, but as you gain points, you gain levels in the kudos program.
So I'm sure you know Andy Gladstone, right?
I do.
Yeah. So when I did my first quiz whiz with Sajid, he's like, "Hey Alex, what's your Atlassian IDs for the Atlassian community?" And I gave him mine. He's just like, "You have like 5 points." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't have a lot of time to answer questions."
I mean, you do, but you answer them on YouTube, not on here.
I do, yeah. I have 800 videos out there answering questions.
Yes, and I've used your videos and I've referenced your videos and I've
Have
passed
you?
them
Okay.
on to people. I have.
You know what? Now I can retire. I feel like I put a dent in the world.
You do excellent videos. I have not broached out into content creation and video creation, so I heavily rely on
Yeah.
videos that you guys produce to help me help other people rather than having to create my own screenshots and my own videos.
Right?
Alex has a great video for this. Go look at it here on YouTube.
Mhm.
I'll
So,
defer back to Roddy now for your originally scheduled programming.
why thank you for your magnanimousness. So Trudy, why don't you tell us? You told us how you got started. What are you up to now?
What am I up to now? Well, as a consultant for Precipio, I am currently assigned on a residency contract, which means I'm working for one client full time. It is a multinational company that has multiple business units around the US and Canada and in the United Kingdom. They have been an on-prem environment with all of these business units having their own Jira and Confluence instances, and they decided to journey to cloud. So, along with some of my teammates, we are helping this large client bring all of their Jira and Confluence instances into Atlassian Cloud.
So the job nobody wants to do.
But that has to be done for
That has
everybody
to be
over and
done,
over.
the necessary evil. We have you heard of my Jira duties?
I have not.
So
So
go ahead. I'll let Rodney.
last year, Alex got the idea he wanted to be a community leader, which great, absolutely encourage it. He should be. But the answer he kept getting was he needs to do more on the community. He needs to do more on the community. So we set up some live streams where we'd go through, and me, our producer Bob, and Alex would answer questions on the community live on the live stream, and we called them Jira duties.
I was having to take my mom to jury duty, and I was getting the same emotional trauma from going to jury duty and having to do this Jira duty. And I was like, you know what? Let's just call it Jira duty.
Well, I find that working in the community and answering people's questions and finding solutions to the problem, I get a little endorphin rush every time that happens. So it's
Wow.
self-rewarding for me. It's like a runner's high. I solved a problem. Woo!
But I gotta imagine that 55,000 plus points, though, you yourself must have a certain threshold for an acceptable answer.
I do. I do have a threshold for an acceptable answer. I find that there are a lot of answers already out there that people are struggling to find. And one thing that makes me a little bit crazy sometimes is when a person will answer by saying, "Take a look at this post," and not provide any context around that to say in the same post they were having the same problem. This person's answer will help you, or this is a similar situation if you look at that and extrapolate in this way. I like there to be a little more flavor, a little more context to the answers. I do reference other people's posts when they have solutions because, of course, we don't need to be copying and pasting and recreating everything over and over again. If we have excellent articles already and excellent answers on file, we should reuse those. But I do like to make sure that I give credit to whoever provided the answer and prompt the person with the question to look at specific things within that post or within that answer that will be helpful to them.
I think, and this is not so much a problem on the community yet, but if you look at some of like the old internet, you'll find you're searching for a specific problem. You find a question like, yes, this post solved my problem exactly, and it has a link. You get a link, and it's been dead for 2 years. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we're going to be in that situation in the Atlassian community anytime soon. But there's going to be a day where that happens. And without the further context, as you say, you're like, well, that was completely useless. The answer was here, but maybe I could go to Wayback Machine. Maybe not. We'll see.
We also find links to documentation in our answers. And as an evolving company, of course, Atlassian is updating their documentation. So sometimes that documentation is either out of date or the link goes dead. And it's important to make sure that if we refer somebody to another post, that we ourselves examine that post and make sure that that is still a valid answer and that any references they provide are still usable references. If we direct somebody to another post and all the links are broken, the documentation is out of date, it's for cloud instead of server or server instead of cloud, that's not really going to be really helpful to them.
You know what's very out of date right now that I ran into just like a week or two ago? Importing issues and
CSV
Yes.
import.
No, but importing the issues, but referencing the Epic link.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
Epic link doesn't exist anymore. And so I tried doing the parent, and they didn't like that either. And so I'm
I've-
looking at John Funk had a couple of them, but everything on the community is still pointing back to the old way.
It is, yes. And the CSV importer is changing
As of last night, no?
as
Or
of
as
last
this morning?
night.
I
I
haven't.
haven't
Yeah.
I'm so scared to click.
I have not gone to the external system import to see if it's actually disconnected and redirecting to the new importer tool. But I am very curious to see how that's going to work because we use the old CSV importer for all kinds of things. I mean, we could import a structure, we could import values into our selection lists and our components, we could update issues. I have used the CSV importer to update the created date, the resolved date. Um,
I
Yeah.
put together a use case, and this is before Atlassian even had documentation on this as a functionality for just creating issues in bulk using CSV import. And as I said, Atlassian now has documentation on it, but when I first wrote it, they did not. So
Yep.
there is the functionality that is there that is just missing sometimes. And that is very frustrating because, I mean, with Atlassian, we're spoiled that a lot of stuff is documented. I've used some pieces of software, especially OSS, open source software, that is sparsely documented. You gotta look up what a particular function does, and it's just nowhere. It does something, you know it does something. It has to be the specific value. You don't know what it's doing.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a lot of areas I think for improvement there. What big pain point as well is like the sprint. You know, get the sprint ID. You know how hard it is to find a sprint ID in Jira?
It's very hard.
And the import won't work. Like you just can't like put the sprint name. You got to put the find the ID, and that's a whole hunt. in
Mhm.
itself.
And that's a whole headache.
It's because the
So-
sprint IDs don't have to be unique, so you can't base anything off of, or sprint names have to be
So
unique.
Trudy,
you can't-
you answered a question in an interesting way right now. You kept saying we. I'm suspecting that you and John and some of the other high profile individuals do you guys ever get together, just the meeting of the minds or quarterly call or at least a happy birthday?
They're the community managers from Atlassian organize coffee chats for us as events for the ACE leaders, and those happen on monthly basis.
I
So
keep forgetting to sign up for them.
yeah, so
Yeah, the
we
Illuminati.
so we do get together in those regards, but we don't independently set up necessarily any ongoing think tank meetings.
What are your thoughts on train the trainer?
That is a new thing that I haven't looked into actually. It's very intriguing. I find I don't have enough time to look into all of the new concepts and the new training opportunities that are coming out.
But you because in a sense you're a trainer, right? Like you're training people by answering their questions.
True.
But how do you get trained to get better? Because that last is constantly changing, and you can't tell me that you're just researching the problems all day long.
Um, okay. I can't say that.
I mean, you can, but don't tell me that that's the answer.
I spend a lot of time just experimenting with the system and trying to keep up with the constant change. It seems like there's something new coming out every week, and sometimes it comes out in a very stealthy manner. Uh, I've learned of changes simply by seeing other people ask about them in the community, and that has prompted me to go review the weekly blog posts, go into my personal environment, and start poking around and trying to find how things have changed when I wasn't paying attention. um, Being a consultant and working for a client, it is a bit of a struggle for me to find the time to keep up with everything new that's coming out and take the training classes, the new training classes that are coming out. There are so many features that I just have not had time to explore because I'm busy helping my client who themselves is not ready to look at those features yet.
Right.
So I'm focused on what's important to the client right now and then trying to squeeze in expanding my own knowledge around the edges of that.
And I'm gonna say it's safe to assume you got all the ACPs under your belt somewhere.
I don't actually.
So then talk
People
about
always
that.
assume. People always assume if you have the answers, you've done all the ACPs, and Even if those don't cost money for community leaders, those cost time. Ain't nobody got time for that, except for you, Alex. You have all the time for it.
I only have one. I only have one, Trudy, and I got peer pressured by. I'm not allowed to call them by their nickname, but I got peer pressured by Rodney and Bob into getting that one certification.
I have
And
3.
We're trying to get you. We need to get you a few more.
You guys and your peer pressure.
It's not peer pressure if it's for something good.
But so, has anybody ever asked you, or did they just, for the simple fact that you are such a prominent leader in the community, doesn't matter?
Has anybody ever asked me what?
For the ACPs, like how many you have, or what you don't have, whatever. ACP related.
For contributing to them, or for how many?
Have you ever felt like, because I always ask, I'm always very curious of people that have all the ACPs like Rodney, right? And they're like, why should I get an ACP? Like, I don't see the value in me getting an ACP, mainly because I hate taking tests. But I feel like there's not a test that can say whether I know something or not. And I think you're the best example of that, though.
I think you're thinking about it wrong. It's like, why did people ask the guy who first climbed Mount Everest, why did he do it? It's because it's there.
Yes, but you didn't have to go get a piece of paper that says, I can breathe at that altitude. Like, he just did it, which is what I do. But
the challenge of the test itself and succeeding in it is the point. Especially when it was a real challenge. I mean, I hate to say it, Alex, but some of the current ACPs are a lot easier than back in the day.
I just discovered. Trudy, have you ever heard of the what was it?
Dragon Quest?
The Dragon
Slayer.
Yeah.
Oh yes, Dragon Slayer.
I was not myself looking for certifications at the time that was active. I didn't learn about it until after it had actually been retired, and I would have loved to have done that.
I got one better.
I'm an old Dungeons and Dragons player, tabletop RPG games, and so the concept of taking tests, which I enjoy taking tests, and calling it dragon slaying would have just been right up my alley.
I went through 4 years ago, right around pandemic time, and I updated the Dragon Slayer with new instructions so you could use modern stuff. And this is right before Atlassian announced Server into Life, which really threw a wrench in things, but it was there. And I was on a live stream with Atlassian at one point, and I mentioned, hey, I updated these instructions. I had some of the community managers come to me saying, hey, can we use this? Can we reference this? And I'm like, technically, you could tell me to get it off the internet altogether because I absolutely stole this from Atlassian. Like, wait, what? I'm like, this is your stuff. I just kind of copied and updated it.
Sean's son is in the Atlassian ecosystem.
He is.
The T-shirt for the Dragon Slayer quest. Yeah.
I ran into someone who wore their T-shirt to Team 24. I got a picture with them.
Matt Dorr, not Matt Dorr. Somebody recently posted a picture of their Dragon Slayer T-shirt.
It was that was, so that's where I learned about it. It was friggin' Rodney putting. I'm horrible with names, so I'm having a hard time remembering his name now. Peter, if you're watching this, I'm messing up your name twice. It's Peter Van der Dorf.
No, that's not right.
God,
you got me doing it now too, Alex.
I was like, so we're doing a 10-hour live stream at the end of this month, and I was talking with Peter Van something, right? And it's horrible. One day I will get it, Peter. Just don't feel bad because Jens Schumacher, I always mess up his name, but it took me a year and a half to finally get his. But anyway, Peter was teaching or showed me this.
Vanderford.
Yes, him. He showed me the shirt and told me about it because he's an OG Atlassian as well here. And when I was telling Rodney, I was like, hey, let's do this idea that Peter basically gave me to do the live stream. In private, I texted him Peter Van something. And this guy goes and puts the post of Peter Van something, can go see it. So Peter, again, public apology for not having the Peter Van board.
Vandeboard.
But yeah,
well, you were asking about peer pressure. as an employee of an Atlassian solution partner, part of our standing as a partner requires that we get some certifications. So that was the only peer pressure I had to get
But
certifications.
I mean, what other partner has a player on their team, on their bench with 55,000 points? Like, that in itself should be like worth it.
But I didn't have all those
Adaptivist,
points when
actually.
yes, Adaptivist.
They've
Adaptivist
got
has several
multiple.
people. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of who else. It's so awful. I don't keep up with who's at the other partners. But yeah, as part of the solution partner standing, the employees of the partners have to have a certain level of certifications,
Yeah.
a certain number of certifications.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm getting peer pressure for mine. And then I was told that the one I did get didn't count.
Oh no.
I'm like, why would they even make it an ACP then?
I was told just a number, not that there was any specific one that I needed.
Yeah,
to
apparently
obtain.
520 doesn't count for them. So I've learned.
I mean, again, just another mountain to climb.
You and your mountain climbing.
I would love to get
I can't do it in real life anymore. Okay.
I would love to be able to get all of the certifications. There are just not enough hours in the day.
There aren't.
I've been told that if you help contribute as a subject matter expert, they waive that part of the requirement for you and you automatically get it.
Oh, really? Well, I should look into that.
I would assume, yeah. Again, top
doesn't sound
here.
Fun.
I don't know. I just don't like taking tests, Ronnie. If there was no test, like if it was like a, what do they call it when your dissertations or your PhD is the verbal test? I'd
defending.
I'd happily would do a dissertation type of thing.
No, I think you should do a practical.
I'll happily do that too. I just don't like going to a test center and doing a test like that.
I want Atlassian to bring back the certified experts. Because Atlassian certified expert, you're an ace. That's just perfect in my mind. But I'm trying to push Atlassian towards bigger, harder tests, and that is not a very popular opinion.
Oh, no, I don't imagine it would be. I've seen enough people posting in the community about how difficult they think the current tests are. And I don't know that the current tests are inherently difficult, but I did AWS certifications, and they were very similar to the Atlassian certifications with multiple choice questions. But you did have to read the question very carefully and find the best answer. And sometimes it was a matter of semantics, how the question was phrased as to which answer would actually be the best answer or the right answer. And that can really trip people up, particularly, I think, for the folks for whom English is a second language.
Yeah, but Atlassian, they've been working on improving on that. And we've had a lot of conversations with Ree and
Joanna.
My name.
Of course, the name's
the end of my day, man. I've been up since 5 a.m. It's been a long day. Yeah, but yeah, they've been making some improvements there. I didn't want to ask you again some more personal, harder questions. What do you do, or how do you handle challenging responses back to your answers? Like, what if somebody doesn't like your answer or disagrees with your answer?
It depends on why they disagree with it.
But because this is a public forum, right? So you can't lose your cool. But I'm assuming deep down, you've lost your cool once or twice, right?
I have indeed. If I feel like I'm losing my cool, I need to walk away from the keyboard. I take my hands off the keyboard and I sit back for a while and get a different perspective. There's definitely been some disagreements on the board. I have definitely disagreed with the answers other people have given, but I always try and make sure that I stay professional and kind, and
run your responses through Atlassian Intelligence.
I have not tried that, no, but I have written a number of responses and then vigorously used the delete key to undo whatever it was I wrote.
Sometimes it's good to just vent.
Exactly.
Like really, really vent on a response, get it out of your system, delete it all, and then write the response you should write.
Yes, exactly.
What about tone? Like, so tone is so hard to convey either from you writing the answer or you reading the question. How do you deal with just the various tones, especially in this global world that Atlassian
Yes.
is?
Tone is very, very challenging. I've noticed if somebody responds and it starts to get my fire burning, if I feel like I'm being attacked or disrespected in some way, I try to make sure that I go back and reread it and try and change my perspective, because what I'm hearing is not necessarily the way they're intending it to be heard. It's not necessarily how they're saying it. And with a community full of people who have different native languages and different secondary languages, sometimes it's a choice of word that
Actually,
seems to be perfectly fine from your perspective, but the person hearing it is interpreting it in an entirely different way. So I try really hard to make sure that I have the right perspective. Sometimes the answers are, it just seems like there's no way around the fact that somebody seems to have gotten excited about whatever they were writing and is in violent disagreement. And I try to gently remind whoever that is that we are all users of the community. We are all users of the product. We are all trying to help each other. And it's a forum for helping, for kindness, for helping, for camaraderie, for sharing. It's not a place to criticize people. It's not a place for personal attacks. It's about the product. It's about the work that we do.
and I was gonna, so an example, right? You said something. A word in one language can mean something so different in another, right? Like one of my biggest pet peeves is the word actually. Like actually in English, you're countering what somebody just said,
Mhm.
right? Especially when you're
That
saying
is
like,
true.
well, actually, this, right? And I think some cultures they use it so much, but I don't think that they understand that they're belittling,
Belittling, yes.
whatever you just said, right? And it drives me insane every time I heard the word actually, because I like it's basically saying like, yeah, I heard what you said, but I don't really care. Like it's this way.
Or I heard what you said, but you were patently wrong, and I'm about to
Right.
demonstrate why I think
But
you're wrong.
I don't think they mean it that way, but when you're reading it, it definitely comes off that way. And even if you
It
hear
can.
it verbally, it comes off that way.
It can indeed, yeah. If I think that somebody has given the wrong answer or an inappropriate answer, I try to make sure that as I respond to it, I'm responding to it with facts. I try to
Mhm.
remove all of the emotion from anything that I say and cite my sources. Your information is incorrect. Here's the correct information.
But don't be citing my
Here's
YouTube
correct
video.
documentation. Here's a screenshot that shows it actually in the system.
Yeah.
I don't do too much on the community these days. I really should be doing more. But when I did, I usually don't like do a reply and say, well, this is wrong. I usually put my own answer and say, here's the documentation. This is how I do it. I try not to be confrontational about it, but I try and put the correct information out there myself.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And I've been corrected many times, and
How does
I'm
that
certainly
feel?
not perfect. I'm grateful for it. If I have stated something wrong, I appreciate it if somebody will point it out to me in a constructive way and help me get the right information, because I learn from it.
And I'm assuming
I
you've
mean,
developed some thick skin over the years at this point.
Oh yes, I'm sure I have. But I can be wrong. I can be wrong. But
we all can be.
if somebody attacks me personally, it gets to me. And I'm sure it gets to everybody. Um,
I don't even read the comments in my videos because of that.
maybe that's one of the reasons I'm not a content creator, is because I
So,
don't want
Jira
that.
Life people, I do read the Jira Life comments. So you guys are covered, even if Alex doesn't.
Yeah, but like I'll get like a comment like I don't even know. I'll get a comment
Reddit is the worst. When I used to post stuff to
on
Reddit.
Reddit.
Yeah, they were the worst.
I gotta find it. Maybe I should do like a mean comments video one day. Because it's like I'll just get like a comment. I'll just read the. I got a comment that says, "Dude, I'm doing the opposite," and whatever I just said.
Yeah.
And it's like, I had another guy. It's like every once in a while, I try to avoid those comments, and every once in a while, I'll just ignore them. But most of the time, I ignore them.
We all can be wrong. And the approach I've taken, if someone points out something I've done wrong, either on community post or on one of my blog posts or something, I'll shout them out.
Yeah.
I say, hey, someone pointed out this. They're absolutely right. I was wrong. Here's the fix.
But that's when your video is wrong, because maybe you made a mistake or something, right? But there's just like mean comments, right? That I'll get where it's like, you just wasted the first 7 minutes of my life, and like all I needed to watch was this 30-second clip to get my answer. I'm like, well, cool, but why are you letting me know?
I mean, that's great. You got your answer with that 30 seconds. Meanwhile, this is YouTube. Welcome. We got to have a decent length video.
I'm like, well, because then, so Trudy, now another thing I want to ask you, right, is in this written form, context is really challenging, right? Without getting into like a novel, right? And this is why I love the video form, because I can describe it, I can click on it, I can walk you through it, and I can give you the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. But how do you formulate giving somebody, because it's one thing to like give them the answer, but it's another thing to like explain why the answer exists. So like, how do you balance that out?
I would say that that is one of the areas I struggle with the most. I write novels. I use lots of pictures and I write novels.
Or in our nerdy joke, you write epics.
I write epics. I do.
Yeah.
I'm a very verbose person, and it's something that I struggle with all the time. I have occasionally written. Sometimes I'll write very, very long explanations, and then I have to look at it again and say it's going to take somebody so long to figure out where the answer is in this. I need to start over. So one of the tricks that I have learned is to try to give the very shortest, most direct answer. And then after that, I go into more detail. This is the answer. However, here are all the things you should consider, or this is the alternative, or
Yeah, that's a good point too, because I have this too, and I'm going to just put it on a t-shirt at this point, because with almost every question that people ask me, I'm like, there's 2 ways or 3 ways, right? There's always more than one way to skin the cat in Jira.
there is.
Because like sometimes it could be in a custom field, sometimes it could be an issue type, sometimes it's a status in a workflow, right? Like you have so many different ways to get to the same destination, but just different paths.
I mean, this has been a saying for a while. I say there are infinite ways to do anything in Jira, but that also means there are infinitely wrong ways to do things in Jira.
Yes, there are.
I was on a call with the team yesterday, and we came up with the new series of videos that I'm going to be publishing. This X Jira feature, exciting or dangerous?
Ooh.
And we're just gonna go through all.
That's gonna be long.
Yeah, I'm like, I told her, I'm like, you just gave me like the next 500 video ideas here.
I think the most common thing that I end up seeing in the community that leads me to trying to reduce my epics is somebody asks how to do something. And the first thing that we need to know is it a company managed Jira project or is it a team managed Jira project? Is it software? Is it business? Or is it service?
Cloud or DC?
Cloud or DC. Until we have those basic facts, there are n factorial number of paths that we can lead you down.
Atlassian, if you're watching, please help.
And that's actually something that we've talked about amongst the leaders several times is should we be prompting for more information in the community? We already have the prompt for deployment and we have the prompt for product and your access level if you're an admin or a site admin. And it's a balance between frustrating people who want to post a question having to jump through so many hoops and fill in so many fields before they can get to their question versus not getting enough information in the question itself, which leads to a conversation going back and forth to get the information we need. So it is a trade-off, trying to make sure you have the minimum information that you need to answer the question.
Yeah, because when we did the Jira duty, we didn't even though we spent an hour, we mainly got like one real solid question answered in an hour because everything else was like, well, we can assume this or we can assume that or we can not really understand the full context of the question. I think that's definitely an area where Atlassian, because everybody in that ecosystem is doing it for free.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, and there's got to be a more streamlined way to not spend an hour to get it, because then you're really spending days, right? Because the time
definitely.
zone differences, right? And you wait
Definitely.
for one reply, and then you get back to it, and it's days later and a lot of calories spent.
And there have been a number of posts that I've seen where the person who has posted the question has asked, can we get on a chat? Can we get in a live session? Can we get in a Zoom meeting? And I have to come back and tell them, unfortunately, no, I can't do that. I'm doing this in my free time. I have to actually go do the job I'm paid for now. I'll help
Have
you as
you-
much as I can, but I unfortunately I can't do live sessions. I can't do live support.
So I used to give away 15 minutes for free for
Oh,
people,
really?
right? Yeah, it was 15 minutes. I had a Calendly and like, hey, if you have any Jira questions after hours, right? Like my 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll spend some time, right? But I don't know if you know, but I'm a live instructor for Atlassian now. We've partnered up with this live training thing, and Atlassian was like, hey, we're gonna blast this to like 500,000 people. And I'm like, let me go hide. I'm like, let me go hide my 15-minute thing because there's just no way. Imagine having 1 million people at 15 minutes free.
Yep.
Like my full-time job would be answering questions for 15 minutes at a
Yep.
time. So yeah, so that's a little fun little fact that I wish there was. I'm a big, huge fan of like, this is why I like doing my live streams. This is why we started. And in fact, when the Jira Life originally started, it was basically ask us your questions. We'll answer them live. Right? It was like literally.
Yeah, we went
Rodney and I
through
will
several ideas trying to figure out what this show would become.
Yeah, so it started out with Rodney and I would just share our screens, and if you had a question in the chat, we would go and teach you how to do it. So we're just answering community questions live on the internet.
You must have gotten
We should-
bombarded.
You would think.
You would think, but no, but everybody's shy.
Really?
And even today with the live learnings that we do, like we're consistent. Just like you have a room, like Rodney and Bob are usually in my live streams as my support group, right? And I'm like, guys, ask the questions. We have experts in the room. Because you got to imagine, like an hour of Rodney, me, and Bob in the room is a very expensive hour.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very.
And we're
expensive.
volunteering it most of the time.
Yep.
Look who's like sneaks into the chat here.
Brittany.
I love Brittany.
Brittany is an amazing source of energy. If we could bottle that, we could solve the energy crisis.
Yeah.
I totally
Be
agree
like
with
Monsters
that.
Inc. They have a movie, dude.
So, Trudy.
Oh yeah, we have a script again.
You participated in the first ever Are You Smarter Than Jira Admin?
Yes,
And not only did you participate, you won.
I did.
Tell us about that. What was that like?
That was so much fun. I had so much fun doing that. I think it is an excellent way to test your knowledge. It was very interesting to be in the first episode of that. There were some technical difficulties which we had to overcome. I think we had a question repeat once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
For myself, what I found, and probably part of the reason I got to the head of that leaderboard, was that I was not looking at the comment stream.
You're staying focused.
I was staying focused on the questions.
Yeah, that was my biggest. So I actually missed part of the Are You Smarter Than Jira Admin? I had some errands I had to go run, but I caught the rest of it from my truck in the parking lot of the library.
His
And
Honda.
yes, it's a Honda, but it's still just a truck. Anyways,
No, but you're so infatuated with your truck.
have you been to the South, man?
No.
Have you ever been to the South?
We
It's
only
just a
drive,
culture thing.
It's only electric cars here in Southern California, dude.
Then you get it.
If you don't have
Just
a
replace
Tesla,
that with truck and you get it.
you know how hard it is to go to Target and find a white Tesla that's yours in the parking lot? It's like impossible to get into the right white Tesla at a Target. It's like crazy hard.
When I lived in the South, I bought a truck before I moved to the South, and I went to a grocery store and I parked my truck. I went in, came outside, tried to unlock my truck. It would not unlock. I spent 5 minutes trying to unlock my truck, and then I looked inside and realized it wasn't my truck. It looked exactly like my truck.
Teslas are worse though, Trudy. I don't know if you have a Tesla, but if you're within proximity, your phone is your key. So it is very possible for you to get out of your Tesla and a new family to come into your Tesla, and your phone still registers still within proximity that you could drive away with said Tesla.
But back to the story, I was sitting there and I was absolutely being the heel in the chat, just posting additional answers that are patently wrong, but as funny as I could think of at the moment, because I knew I didn't already have a chance. I only had my phone, so I couldn't even really participate and still listen to the stream. But it's like, at this point, I might as well just have fun with it. So it's probably a very good idea not to pay attention to the chat.
Well, I would watch for the questions to come up, and then I would be very focused on reading the question and getting the answer as quickly as I could, and then I would go look at the chat. And the stuff you were posting, Rodney, was just absolutely awesome. It was hysterical.
I didn't even get a chance to see it though, mainly because I have like post-Sajid syndrome. Like I just can't with him anymore. I had like nights that I would wake up and sweat from just being on that dumb quiz whiz.
I never volunteered for the quiz whiz. That was too much general knowledge. I need to focus in on specific topics.
If you knew anything about soccer, apparently it was a walk in the park.
I watched several of those, and I would have lost horribly if I had been a contestant.
It's the same thing, though. It's just focusing down and concentrating on the questions when it's your time.
Yeah, but I just didn't have the answers.
Nobody does, Trudy. Nobody does. Except for like Bob, because apparently Bob has no other hobbies other than like soccer and marble trivia. And he's so competitive too. We'd have like a LinkedIn channel going on the side here, and like we'd be watching other people's, and like Rodney and Bob were like hyper analyzing the questions to like what type of question, where in the rank of all the questions did it come in? Was it an even number? Was it an odd number? What Marvel theme was it? Was it a Star Wars? Was it a Disney? Was it a soccer? What region of the world was the question influenced from? And they go like study that forever, and I'm like, well, guys, it's a freaking quiz.
Did it pay out or did it pay out?
Not for you the second time. I threw my support over at BBQ and coffee. Anyways, so I wanted to ask another question, but now I forgot.
Go.
Well, I forgot now because I don't write my questions down.
Distracted by the conversation.
Right there all week.
I remember. So, Trudy, flipping the script, figuratively, have you ever felt that because you... Let me rephrase the question. How often, from when a question pops in, what's the delay from when the question becomes available to when Trudy comes in and answers it? Serious question, because I sometimes want to jump in and I'm like, well, Trudy's got it or John's got it, and I'm like, what value can I add at that point? So it turns me off from answering questions. So like, is that something you even consider? Like, are you putting people away because you're jumping in and answering?
I haven't thought about that, but now I will.
Sorry. Subconsciously sorry.
I mean,
well, just to be clear, I don't have the community up on my screen all the time. So there can be significant delays.
I thought you had like a script that just sends you every question to your phone directly.
No. I go to the community sometimes as a break from what I'm doing in my regular job. So I might look at it before I get started in the morning, and then during my lunch break, I might go back to it. Or if
Most people do Pilates or yoga, but you go answer questions.
Yeah, I pretty much sit down at my desk and stay here all day. My answer to Pilates and exercising is after work I go to the ballet studio and dance for 3 hours. So
Oh, okay.
that's where I get my exercise. But
And you're thinking about Jira, right?
no, actually, ballet takes so much focus that it
Mhm.
forces me to not think about anything except ballet. It has saved a number of coworkers that I've been irritated with on multiple occasions,
You know,
and end users.
Mark
Mhm.
Zuckerberg said something very similar. Mark, I don't know if you know, but Mark Zuckerberg, he does like a yearly goal, right? And
Mhm.
then one year he took up MMA, and he's like, I love this MMA stuff because if I for a split second think about a problem at work, that's a punch in the face that I'm gonna receive, right? So he's like, it requires you to be laser focused when you're doing like some that kind of physical activity. As
Yeah.
opposed to like running, he's like running was the worst thing I could do because all I could think about was work problems the whole
Your
time.
brain can wander in that
Yeah.
case. Yeah.
Yeah.
The teacher that I have for ballet is very diligent about classical training, and it's a class for adults. Most of us are older adults, so we have to take care of our bodies. We're not, teenagers who can bend like Gumby anymore. And none of us are professional dancers. So we're always being very careful about how we use our bodies and making sure that we're using them correctly. And it takes a lot of concentration because if you don't manage your body correctly when you're trying to do ballet, you can seriously hurt yourself like you could in any sport. So it just completely removes me from work, from the problems of the day. I'm just completely focused on my physical form and the artistry of what I'm trying to do.
Do you feel like the ballet discipline and rigor helps you with your discipline in the community?
I I actually think it turned out to be the other way around. I've always been very much a STEM type of person, science, math, technical stuff. And I get into ballet class and I apply that highly analytical mind to my ballet technique. And in many cases, my teacher has told me to stop analyzing and just feel what I'm doing
Yeah.
and be an artist and enjoy and dance for the joy of it. And in my brain, I'm busy thinking about my skeleton being aligned and pull up here and tighten this and relax that and lift
Have you
there.
ever
And
there's a Disney Channel movie called Ice Princess, I think, where she had like her boyfriend was a scientist and they were analyzing with video
yep.
her rotations and everything.
Yes, yes. There's actually a book called The Physics of Dance that does a very similar thing where a famous dancer was using his daughter's movements and applying physics to them and analyzing the, moment of inertia and all of those fun physics terms.
Look at this
I
little gangster over here with this bling.
I see that.
you called it out. No, I played music in high school and college, flute and piccolo, and that's again how I actually met my wife. Was in band,
I
and
also played the flute.
it's awesome
I
instrument.
did I did flute and oboe.
Oboes are forgivable. I did also clarinet and some percussion, but we're going to leave those two alone. But it's so easy to hyperfixate on all the technical aspects. Am I sitting upright? Is my breathing right? Am I breathing in the right place? Is my intonation good? Am I hitting the notes correctly? Is it the right tongue pattern? Is it my fingerings right? All this. And the best music I ever played is when I just sat there and let it flow and just felt it and didn't try and overanalyze.
Yep. Yes, indeed. So in our ballet classes, we always have a few exercises where our teacher is emphasizing don't think so much about your technique, just think about moving and dancing and the joy of your experience and let that shine through rather than worrying about being perfectly placed and technically correct. So,
Well, Rodney, we're ending nearing the end of the episode, and I'm assuming there's a lot of questions in that script that we got nowhere near.
Actually, we got most of them.
I swear I did not read any of it, Trudy. But what did you think? You were freaking out a little bit on me, knowing that I hadn't read the script.
I feel like this was just a conversation with friends.
That's good. That's how we
That's
want
all
it to
it's
be.
ever going to be. But now here's a part where you're really going to hate us.
Oh, this is the question. The fast
The quick Quizlets.
No, we
quizzes.
partnered up with Bree and Joanna, and we got some of the hardest questions.
Oh my goodness. No.
I'm just kidding, but that was a
ma'am.
great segment.
I mean, maybe season 3.
Season
But
3.
not this year.
We'll have a segment called Stomp the Stomper.
But still, we've got 5 questions here. They're A or B format, or quick answer, or quick answer, or fill in the blank, or something like that. The idea is to answer each one as quick as possible. We'll give you a break between each one to kind of explain your answer, but we want your answer as fast as possible.
Oh my.
No
Okay.
epic.
All right. So first one: team or company managed projects.
Company managed.
I could hug
Good
you,
answer.
Trudy, right?
Company managed projects because I come from a background of wanting to be able to roll up data into C-level, C-suite reports, which becomes nearly impossible when everybody is going wild, wild west on team managed projects, making up their own custom fields and their own workflows. I also started out my tech career in a regulated industry in healthcare, where everything had to follow a very specific process. So, and I'm a control freak. I'm a Jira admin who's a control freak, and so I want to have control over what people are doing. So, company managed all the way.
All right. Second one: does your thumb count as a finger?
No,
No.
it's
Not
4
from
fingers and a
employment,
thumb. 4
But is it
fingers.
a phalange
and a
still?
It is. I think it's a phalange. I think technically it's a phalange. It's a digit. It's 5 digits. 4 fingers and
I
a
mean,
thumb.
that's like saying it's a square. All squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares.
Exactly. A thumb is a digit, but it's not a finger.
Before we turn this into a geometry proof class, let's proceed with the next question.
All right. This one's great with Brittany in the audience. Jira or Trello?
Jira.
Have you ever ventured over to answering a Trello question?
Not intentionally. Trello questions have shown up in Jira, and once I finally figured out they were talking about Trello instead of Jira, I have moved the question over to the Trello board, claiming that I know nothing about Trello. And I say Jira because I know very little about Trello.
Probably for the
Trello's awesome
probably
for
for-
certain use cases, but it's not an everything tool. And I know I'm going to have Brittany hounding me at the next conference about that because of that very statement.
Speaking of conferences, where were you at Team 24?
She was there.
Me? I was there.
How did I not ever run into you?
I
You
saw
weren't even
you.
in the same room.
I know, but I never saw. This is the first time I see Trudy in my life. Did you see me?
I did see you. I saw you a couple of times when you were doing talks in the community area. But I don't think I had an opportunity to actually walk up and say hello to you.
You should. Alex enjoys it.
I just can't believe I'm the president of greatness. Nobody tells me. It's like Bob. Bob, what's her name? Miss Price.
Didn't we talk for a few minutes at the party though?
Which party?
think
There's many parties.
The end of the conference party, the one at the
That?
The bash.
the bash, yeah.
That night was a blur.
I think we were in the same
Cabana?
cabana for a short period of time.
Yeah.
It is possible. I do remember talking to the Las Vegas Ace leader and her husband.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that night was a blur. That night, the whole bash party was me watching Sean Doyle walk around looking for a beer at the end. That was the best. And then he goes to get ice cream and doesn't invite me at like 11:30 a.m. or p.m.
All right. So question number 4. What do you call a sugary carbonated beverage? A soda, pop, or Coke?
Soda.
Soda?
Coast, best coast.
And when I lived in Florida, they made fun of me because I called it soda.
Where were you born originally, Trudy? Or where did you grow up?
Oregonian.
So
Born
you're-
and bred in Oregon. And when I went to Florida, I had to learn to start calling it Coke.
Sorry, I got to change my headphones.
This guy having technical difficulties.
Yeah. I forgot to charge my headphones this morning. Sue me.
I would, but that feels like it's more like Sean's department. Or more like fire me.
All right, so we have one last question. This one for all the marbles. Even though this is like whose line, there are no
For the
points.
55,000 points, are those transferable?
Where the points don't matter.
So the last question, the ultimate question: do you prefer physical books or ebooks?
Physical.
Physical?
Physical. You can't really see it behind me, but kind of see it as I move my finger
They're all
around.
there.
There are bookshelves behind me. There's another bookshelf over there. In the room on the other side of the wall, there are 3 bookshelves full of books. I have books from favorite childhood books from when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 into my teen years. I keep books forever. I reread them over and over again. I do have a Kindle, and I use it when I travel because I don't want to physically lug books around, because I'll read 6 or 7 books while I'm traveling, and I don't want to carry 6 or 7 books physically around. But I do prefer paper books.
Do you buy any technical or Atlassian books?
I have been considering the book that you guys just recently
I was going to say
published.
you may or may not be in the presence of 2 authors here.
I did see your posts about your new book, and I have it on my post note right here on my desk to go get myself a copy of it.
We're definitely going to need to bring some Sharpies come next conference.
Oh, spoilers for anybody who's listening. I already promised Isabella she's in Germany, the first copy, because remember, she had the first picture of the Jira guys together, right? So I promised her the first autographed copy with all 4 signatures.
Ooh.
Because that doesn't exist today.
That'll be a collector's item.
Yes. Whoever can get all 4 signatures because of our geographically dispersed,
I mean, me and Ed even live in the same area, and that still hasn't happened yet.
Might happen. 9-9.
But yeah, that's our quick Quizlet. Trudy, thank you for being on. Thank you for being a good sport. How was it? Nerve-wracking, fun?
After I sign off, I'll go hide in a corner and cry. My inner introvert will beat me up, but
How
my
can
outer
you be an introvert? You are like the queen of community questions.
Because that's behind a screen.
Exactly. That's on my time.
Well, you did
I
it
want
really,
to.
really well. If you ever want to be on my YouTube channel answering questions, let me know. I'll give you my platform. It's all yours. Actually, if you want to do a Jira duty together, let me know.
I think that would be fun.
So much pressure.
I would love to do a Jira duty with Miss Trudy here.
Again, thank you for being on. Again, quick thank you to our Jira Amigos and our Confluencers. That is Sean Doyle, that is Andy Gladstone, and that is Ed Gale. And again, we didn't choose the Jira Life. The Jira Life chose us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Jira Life. Our hosts are Alex, Dr. Jira Ortiz, and Rodney, the Jira Guy, Nissen. You can find Alex on YouTube at 8Tech Tutorials, and Rodney's blog is found over at thejiraguy.com. Our producers are Robert King Bob Wen and Lina Ortiz. You can catch us live as we record this podcast every Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on YouTube at The Jira Life. Be sure to join us and our other Jira Amigos of the Peanut Gallery every week to ask your questions, let us know your comments, and just tell us what you're up to. But if you can't join us live, you can still catch the replay over on YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell while you're watching. We're also available as a podcast over on Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you listen to it and think it deserves a rating, we would very much appreciate it, as it will help others discover the Jira Life. because we didn't choose the Jira Life. The Jira Life chose us.